Keay.
Brilliant, thank you. Thanks for organising this, by the way. This is fantastic. It's great to see so many people interested in vulnerability. I'm Scott Keay. I'm currently a lecturer at Edge Hill University. I've been here for 2 years. Prior to that, I was 20 years in Lancashire Constabulary as a criminal intelligence analyst and a partnership intelligence analyst. And that led me to my PhD research, which is how to define, identify and respond to vulnerability in a policing context. And that came from being involved in a lot of partnership activity work in looking at vulnerability and getting frustrated with the times that vulnerability was mentioned and vulnerable people were mentioned. And it was like a trump card being thrown onto the desk, which I know has been mentioned in a paper before. And it was a way of trumping different agencies into who's going to deal with who. And it all came down to the definition. And it's interesting that so many people have spoken about definition already this morning. And that's kind of the first part of my PhD research, which luckily I published on, which was great. And I'll post a link in there afterwards. But even within a policing context, different forces have different definitions of vulnerability. The College of Policing have a different definition, and the HMIC have a different definition. So in policing, we tend to define things because we like to put things in boxes. We like to put people in boxes and categories. And vulnerability, you know, the research by Luna has shown that the vulnerability is in layers, not boxes. And I think there is a danger that if we do define too much, some people will be in and some people will be out. So who then has access to special services and special measures and gets targeted? Because if I'm defined as vulnerable in Lancashire, I move to Cumbria, they may have a different definition, and then I am not vulnerable anymore. So it kind of seems a bit backward in some terms. So I would argue at this point, do we need a definition of vulnerability? Because it is rich, it is complex, it is pervasive. So do we need to define vulnerability, or is there something else that we need to use, different terminology such as that within public health? The key thing though for me in relation to policing is that whilst it's difficult to define and we are struggling with it, it is highlighting areas of complexity, and policing are moving into a different arena and working more collaboratively with different agencies. And that has only got to be a positive step. And that is what that's the tail end of my PhD. So I'm currently writing that up at the moment. So I would argue that we need to look at vulnerability as layers, such as Luna has discussed over a decade ago, and looking at ecological models about how your environment, your family and associations can impact on it, because they're not mutually exclusive. It's not all about the physical being, there's other factors as well. Thank you.